our second option for an enclosure would be a plastic tote or tub. You can pick these up in different sizes. The tote or tub won't be very big. If you're doing a young ball python like our Mr. Discord here, who is right at 3.5 months, it just worked fine. You can also use your fir bark, your Reptibark, your coconut fiber, whatever substrate you decided, or your paper towel. And you're going to put the heat mat down at the bottom. You're going to run your thermostat in on top of your heat mat to keep it at the right temperature. Again, about 89 degrees, 90 degrees. You're going to put your substrate down. You're going to put your hide in. You're going to put your water. And you put your snake in there. What you're going to do is you're going to drill your holes along the sides of the tote, not the top. You're going to drill along the sides. The reason you don't drill on the top is you don't want your humidity just to escape, just like your tank did. So you're going to drill along the sides, and you'll drill, usually I start with about 4 holes at about 1/4 inch each, and you just simply drill them across. You do have to drill slowly, or the drill will crack the tote. Not that it really matters if the tote is cracked. But you want a nice drilled holes on the sides for ventilation. I put some holes on one side of the tote. I'll put some holes on the other side. If I get too much humidity, you simply drill a few more holes. You want to start off with just a few holes at a time. That way you can increase the holes if you find the humidity being a problem. If it's just fine, leave it alone. If you need more humidity, you can cover up the holes with a piece of tape if you need to. Okay, so we have our tote, we have our holes for both ventilation and to control our humidity. These plastic totes actually hold the humidity extremely well. They also hold the heat very well. You don't need an additional heat source, which that's a good thing because this would be very difficult. Unlike what I should have told you when we were doing the tank setup, sometimes you need to heat the enclosure because the heat mat under there is going to give them a warm spot there, but not going to heat the entire enclosure. So usually you'll have to put a red bulb light or some other kind of, if you put a spotlight in there, the ball pythons really don't like the light, so it's very unlikely that your python will go over to the light. You could use a ceramic heater, but that only further hampers the problem of the humidity because the ceramic heater will dry out the environment very quickly. This enclosure is a good size for Discord, who's again a 3.5 month old super pastel bamboo. Now you can go up. This size would still be. It's still good for a larger snake. I do have a larger one. I think it's a little tight for her, but she enjoys this enclosure. Every time I move her to a larger tote, she decides she's not going to eat. So she's not ready to move to the next size yet. But this is Miss Twilight. She likes her really tight space, which ball pythons do like a very nice, tight, closed environment. That's what they like, to feel secure. They spend a lot of their time in the wild in termite mounds under the ground in a little hole, so they don't really want a big open space. They just feel like somebody's going to come along and eat them. And she's just perfectly fine in there. Now, you wouldn't want to go much bigger than Twilight. Like I said, Twilight is actually kind of getting to the point where she's really going to need to move to a larger side. But because if you get a snake like Mushu here, you try and put her in this tote, and she is almost going all the way around the entire enclosure. And that is really too tight for her. Your ideal thing is you want to measure from one side and across, and you want to be able to stretch your snake out from that area and let them be able to stretch out along 2 sides of your tote, and they have enough space. That's more than enough space for them. So she has to go into the next size tote up. because with her hide, and if you put them in a rack, you don't always need to put a hide, but depending on how your rack is, how much light there is in the room, sometimes they do enjoy their hides even if they are in a rack system. That's another good thing about the tote, is you can build your own rack system, because you could simply put the lid on this tote, stack another tote on top, or put a small shelf, and you could put 2 or 3 snakes on that same shelf, and you can build your own homemade rack. You don't have to have a fancy, oh, I need a giant fancy rack and it pulls out. You can have one simple like this. You could even, if you can adjust your shelf, you can even slide this into the shelf for your rack system, and that way you wouldn't have to worry about, oh, the lid's off, the lid's not on, did I snap the lid down? If you don't have tight fitting shelves, simply use the lid. And that's a good thing about the plastic as well, because with the tanks, you're not really going to be able to stack multiple tanks together. You're going to have an issue with trying to open the lids. You're going to have an issue with the weight of the tank itself, where you don't really have it. This is very light, moves around real easy with this tote.
Is that 20?